So maybe I can start.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first question, well, the company Athena, is that how you pronounce Athena? So my concern is, well, it's not really concern. So first of all, while there are not so many music therapists out there, it can be potentially a niche market. But the company may also face a challenge to find a sufficient number of students or clients for profit generation. And they also may need a lot of transition time and also money to educate the group before they can make a profit. So this is about their business model. And also regarding the apps, I'm a little bit concerned as this customized type of the app, they need to first collect a lot of great deal of individual data. So how can they really achieve that? So today, of course, we didn't really have time, but if we have time, I would like to look more carefully the breakdown of the financial projection, how we can come up with those numbers. So this is the feedback for the first company. And for the Watch RX, correct me if I pronounce the name wrong, I really like the CEO. She has a really clear path or idea how to achieve this business goal. But again, my concern is there are way too many players in this market. So probably a more standing out differentiator may be better or prefer. And also regarding our last company, this Bozy company, we of course we also don't have chance to learn how well the robot operates. Of course, one of our judge also asked question about the battery and also how, as an indoor delivery robot, the accuracy, whether can deliver whatever it needs to the designated site is also important. But regardless, still the healthcare adaptation is an issue. So even though they have JLL as a partner, but individual hospital penetration is definitely not easy. So they definitely need to have a more, maybe some specialized personnel in the team can help them. So that will be also really one important focus. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Anna. I think I'll go with Manish since Steve just come back. Steve will be next. Manish, you ready for the feedback?
Yeah, thank you, David. So yeah, good to hear the people present their products. Obviously, everybody has passion. So if I start with the reverse order, so Bodzi from Rajiv, I think generally good presentation. I'm still not convinced why he has chosen hospitals, which perhaps are more difficult than other sectors. The other interesting thing sometimes I find is why didn't we see a video of the robot in action? So if you're going to sell something, then show it to me. Let me see how good it is. Just talking about it isn't really impactful. So I'm a bit surprised with that. But I think overall, I felt overall it was a good presentation. It's a good product, and he had a sequential sort of series of next steps. So I would be happy in terms of taking that forward. I think the Watch RX Jayanti presented well, and as Ella said, reasonably well thought through plans. I guess again, I feel there needs to be some degree of clarity of how you manage so many players in that market today, and what's special, what's your niche area, how are you going to improve that. And finally, with relation to Roz, I think Athena Music, I personally felt, no disrespect to Roz or the product, I felt that was perhaps the weakest presentation. There wasn't the focus in it that we need. I wasn't even sure, is it a product we're selling? Is it a service we're selling? Are we trying to sell both? I think there's a very famous adage which says is, I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time for a short one. And that's how I would sum Ross is, there was too much there. There was no focus, and no disrespect to her product. I think she needs to work better on getting clarity of what the focus is. And the examples that she showed, especially, they were both examples of personalized music music, and she didn't even once use the term personalized. The only way her product is going to sell is by its personalized nature. And that's perhaps actually a niche area, but that wasn't mentioned at all. So I think there's definitely work for us to do. But the other two I was reasonably happy with, albeit highlighting some of the weaknesses that I had said.
Okay, thank you, Manish. Steve, your turn.
Yes, thank you, David. I agree with all the previous judges and panelists. There's a lot of talent here, definitely a lot of interesting companies I saw today. I have to say, Dr. Hashu, I actually seen the robots in one of the local hospitals here, actually in 2 hospitals, doing very similar things, which is a good thing because they exist in production environment in hospitals.
Clarify, is the same company or different company?
No, different company. No, I'm talking about very well established different company. What I'm saying is the robots are actually entering hospital space. My wife works at Stanford. She's an internist, and at local El Camino hospital here, Hospital of Silicon Valley. And I experienced robots, and I've seen how they deliver medications and carry various stuff on. So it's a reality. But the bad news, it is a reality for a startup, right? So there's a lot of companies doing this already. Not to say that this particular solution doesn't work or doesn't have future, it does, but there needs to be some differentiating factors. And like you said, selling to hospitals is a totally different paradigm. It's much harder than selling to anything else in this space. The sales cycles alone for each hospital take a couple of years. So it's a very tall challenge for a startup, but I am kind of buy into the vision. And I think it's a very exciting product, even though we haven't had a chance to see it in action today. That would be nice, I agree. The music startup, I'm a big supporter of behavioral health and patient engagement at that level. But I think I agree. I was a little bit confused by the presentation and the fact that I'm not sure whether it's a product, soup to nuts kind of a digital product which actually distributes musicians at the bedside, or is it a service? So I'm a little bit confused. And also, obviously, they're going to have a big problem with scalability here because that's just not very scalable service. The Watch RX, this one is an very interesting company. I have seen so many RPM solutions, from startups to Livongo to companies that actually have huge IPOs and doing very well on the market. So it is extremely congested market. I know a lot of companies doing the kits, a lot of companies doing hardware, the actual oximeters, the pulsimeters, the blood cuffs, all the stuff that goes in a kit. What I have not seen, which was very interesting to me, is all of this combined into a watch factor. So that's kind of cool. I actually like that a lot. I haven't seen it out in the market. I'm actually going to double click on that and take a look. Why haven't somebody else come up with that idea? It's quite interesting. In such a congested market, a brilliant idea like this, it's either there's a problem or that's really a brilliant idea. So I would like to watch that further. And I think if it is brand new, and you could do so much on a watch. My only setback on that was, I think for a startup, it would be a lot easier to start with an app. And I asked her that question, and I think she gave me a pretty good response that they started development before Apple Watch was on the market. So obviously they saw a need for form factor of the watch to do clinical alerts. And, you know, for integration with the EHRs today, that's not really a big issue like it was a couple of years ago. So I don't think that's going to delay them at all. You can do a lot of things today through APIs. So I think WatchRx is a very interesting company. I would put them at the top of the list to watch. Thank you.
Now, my partner Pawan, maybe you can give your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I think of all the three, I think WatchRx is quite good, especially the way they are integrating into B2B model. You know, generally, you know, most of this space is B2C. Everybody tries to target the consumer, but the way they are trying to break into this space through B2B is very, very interesting. And also some of the typical applications they are integrating is also different. Right? And I think that's very interesting. The next is robotics. I mean, great idea. As Dr. Minesh said, it could have multiple applications. Good that, you know, because they leverage the relationships to start with hospital, great. But as Steve said, you know, it is competitive. You know, like we heard during COVID time, all the food in most of the COVID hospitals are delivered by robots. So there's nothing different there. But again, they need to quickly find their differentiator and scale quickly. And last thing is Rose. I think Rose need to spend a lot of time to improve her presentation. I think she has good one niche I could sort of identify with Rose is training bit of it more than the consumer side. Maybe her training bit has some market, some space, and some opportunity there. But again, you know, she need to narrow down the whole thing and keep it very, very simple and straight, and try to get more time from the investors to get their feedback and inputs. Yeah, I think for me, WatchRx is the right one. Go ahead, David. What about yours?
Great. So in general, I like the companies has unique technologies. I like the robotic one, but unfortunately, Steve gave me a bad message that somebody else company, big company already in the market. That's changed my perspective very largely right now. Yes, and you know, we invested several robotic companies in the past, especially right now because of pandemic. We call it touchless. Anything robotic is booming, and of course telemedicine right now as well. So yes, for us, music therapy, that is very competitive market. We already saw several companies there, and also it's very difficult to succeed. And her presentations wait way too long. We actually need to manage our process a lot more. Our guidelines 4 to 6 minutes. I think she did like 17 or 18. I didn't count, maybe even 20 minutes presentation. That's going to be throw most of the investors off the room immediately. She really needs to understand that one. So I do have one follow-up question. I'm going to do a 2-in-1 question as a summary. I want to invite each of you give a positive feedback, or not feedback, sorry, suggestions to the company you really, really liked. It can be 0, can be 1, but maximum 2. Where they can improve their pitch or even product. The second question is that what else? Just like we talk about telemedicine, we talk about robotic, what other companies or startups you think have opportunity? I'm going to ask Steve to kick it off.
I think the biggest emerging sector right now in healthcare, just looking at the healthcare overall, it is behind probably 2 decades behind every other industry today, in the fintech space, in insurtech, in banking, in commerce, marketplaces. So I think we could enjoy great acceleration when you combine AI, which is progressing very nicely, and bringing that into healthcare. But when I say AI in healthcare, it has to be very different. from anything else we know, right? So practical application to the medicine and healthcare technologies of artificial intelligence has to be very, very hands-on. It has to be driven to produce better outcomes. And I think from what I see out there in the field, there are several kind of beachheads that are already established. And I think the first big segment of healthcare that's going to fall to AI and be consumed by AI is the radiology imaging sector, which is a big part of healthcare ecosystem today. And that's where I see a lot of progress being made. But bringing machine learning, bringing AI, and obviously focusing on the clinical data, both at the bedside and analytical space, and in the revenue cycle management, which is essentially part of the healthcare, at least in the United States. I know UK is very different, Mihesh, but I think I've seen same problems in other countries. We definitely have more problems here in the US because we're so fragmented and decentralized. And, you know, with elections upon us now, I think whoever takes the presidency gonna have facing the same problems as the current administration. So we all have to work much harder in the next 5 years to produce much better outcome in the US and hopefully distribute that success to the rest of the world and other countries. So that's my take on the healthcare.
Thank you, Steve. Manish, Anna, where is ready?
So for me, I think I would agree with Steve. So if you ask me what is going to be the biggest intervention in healthcare in the next 2 decades, I don't think it's going to be a medicine. I don't think it's going to be a device. I think it's going to be use of data. Better use of data to generate insights, generate possible solutions to healthcare problems, I think is going to be the biggest intervention in healthcare in the next 2 decades. So I would agree definitely with Steve that use of data through AI, through machine learning to understand some of the issues we don't understand well is going to be important. The other area in healthcare which I feel perhaps needs investment is training. I think we're going to see more and more that we will be able to, we will be forced to train a lot more remotely, we'll be forced to train a lot more outside the traditional classroom. So I think training in healthcare is perhaps another area I would focus on. In terms of feedback or sort of positives for the individual companies or niche areas, I would again go back in terms of Bodzid to say, as Steve said, there's already companies who are doing the robotic thing. So maybe if he has to stay in healthcare or stay in hospitals, maybe they need to make that leap in terms of waste management, in terms of biohazard, and do that as a niche area compared to some of the others. For Jayanti, in terms of Watch RX, I think there are good possibilities there, but again, I would one of the key worries I have is the size of the watch, the usability of the watch, and part of that I guess could be negated by what Steve was saying in terms of app, because a lot of seniors don't like the smallness of the watch. So I think that would be the thing to think about. And finally, in terms of ROS, I think.
Okay, Manish, you only got 2. Okay, next.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. I think I've done enough. That's fine. Thank you.
Ella.
Yeah, so I will start with the positive side of the company. So regard
companies.
Huh?
2 companies.
Oh, my two.
Preferable one.
Okay. So for the music therapy, even though it's not really quite clear for the business model or business plan, but I really think they are targeting, the market they are targeting could be a niche market. But on the other hand, it could be also accounts because they may not really have so many students or people or clients to let them to train. So this is to find a niche market. This is one positive side of the company. So for the second one, I probably would go with Bozy, the robot company, even though I really have no clue where they are regarding their product development, whether they're already a legitimate product there, but definitely moving forward, the trend is there, the need is there to really maximize the efficiency of all this hospital operations. So the market is huge. So this is one positive side. So this is two companies. Regarding the next big thing in healthcare is definitely AI, the operation AI. So first, so of course, the application of AI in healthcare could be applied to so many things about the drug development, about the care, about the hospital environmental use. There's a lot of things, imaging analysis. But a lot of well, for now, one of the largest challenge is still the adaptation. This adaptation especially used in the hospital environment we all know the hospital and also the medical staff, it could be a better way to use up all the funds, use up all the money, and also the timing. But to really change this, it's not the technology is not there. It's just you need to find a way to let the whole system adapt to using the technique to help them improve. I think this is like one of the large challenge. But also the application of AI, for instance, used in drug development, that could be also a really, really big helper. That would just help to save not only time by 1/10 of what's originally take, but also cost-wise, it's going to also save a lot of money. So make this really short. I think the application of AI in healthcare would be a big thing, but also the interaction between the AI and also medical staff could be also a thing to let them willing to use and also know how to use it, not overrule the decision coming from physician. That also one part of it.
Thank you, Ella. Owen?
Yeah, so for me, I think the biggest thing, what we have experienced in the recent past, which is due for disruption, and I hope the regulators recognize and realize, is telemedicine. Yeah, I hope every government, every country starts, promoting telemedicine in a big way, because unless we break the existing cartels, you cannot bring innovation in this space. Steve rightly said, it is 2 decades backward. But if we go back to the earlier normal, we will still struggle to stay there. I think the one way to break all the cartels which are existing today between doctors, hospitals, pharma companies, everything, right? Insurance. The best thing is to promote telemedicine in a big, big way, because it has been very successful during pandemic. The regulators have to push, because this has a spiraling effect to disrupt the entire cartels which are existing today and bring a huge phenomenal change, fundamental shift in the whole industry. So I feel telemedicine is a big thing, and I hope regulators keep promoting it to bring a huge change in the space. And in terms of positives, I think RX Watch is good. I mean, they have a very good application. I mean, B2B to C is a great model. And again, the Bozy is also great. They should quickly scale into other industries, as Dr. Vinesh said, because the opportunity window of COVID is not going to last after next summer. So within that time, wherever you can go, they should go in and grab the market. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, great.